Hey y'all, it's RageCaje. I'm not going to be doing my usual intro today because there's just been a lot of stuff on my mind recently in the past news. I know I haven't done a lot of Let's Plays or videos yet, even with Void Guy. It's just, I've been really busy and there's been a lot of stuff going on lately that has affected me because it's taken place over the past couple months in two places that I call home, both respectively. In recent news, of course, since you guys know, I grew up in Louisiana. I'm from Louisiana, and I still consider it very much my home. It's my home. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. But in what's been going on in recent news, particularly in Baton Rouge, I just got off the phone with my mom. Like, I talked to her just to catch up to see how she was doing, and we got to talking about this topic. And talking with my mom about the events that's been happening, while we agree on some issues, there are also some issues that we don't agree on, but we still respect each other's opinions. And we are still able to talk about it like adults and just be civil about it. But the one thing that we do agree on is that, and I know that this is going to sound ironic because my name is RageCaje, but all of this violence needs to stop. And it needs to stop now. The world is scary enough as it is. And like I said, it's ironic because my name's RageCaje. But most of my raging comes from video games. Comes from me playing games. And that's simulated. That's violent. That's simulated violence. It's artificial. It's not real. I know it's a video game. I don't take it seriously. Well, I kind of do, but you get my point. Everything that's happening now is very real. And it scares me. And that's what needs to stop. We've had the shootings in Baton Rouge that had with Alton Sterling, and more recently now with the police officers that were shot just this past Sunday. But before that, it was shootings in Dallas that I believe were police officers as well. And then even before all of that, which took place, like, I kid you not, probably in my own backyard, like 10 miles down the road, was the mass shooting at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. All of this hate needs to stop. And I understand that everyone in these shootings is taking a political side, saying like, oh, this was a political agenda. The shooter had this in mind, and he went and he did this, and blah, 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 for X, Y, and Z for your political agenda. I understand that. And every side has its views. And there are some people who don't agree with their views. I know I'm kind of being a little cryptic right now. I'm going to try to explain. I'm going to try to explain without getting really too political into this. So, basically, everyone has their stance. And everyone faces some kind of oppression. Everyone does. You have oppression against your race, the color of your skin, your religion, your sexual orientation, your gender. I understand if your religion is very serious to you. Bravo. I respect that. But what happens when you impose your view or your religion onto someone else, that's when it's wrong. And that's when you need to stop. This country was based on one of the facts that we should have freedom of religion. That doesn't mean freedom of one religion. It's freedom of all religion. Religious persecution in general. So you have Christianity, you have Muslim, you have Hindu, you have Native American beliefs, you've had people who are agnostic that don't believe in anything. You have all these different religions that are surrounding us, that everyone practices. But you can't impose one over the other. Everyone has their own religious freedom and their own right to practice what they believe. That doesn't mean you need to impose your religion onto someone else because of what they believe is wrong. Just be respectful of religion. And the thing about race, I don't understand why this is a thing. All of this, the color of your skin, is pre-designed by genetics. It's genetic. You cannot control the color of your skin. So to persecute or oppress someone because of that, or because of their heritage in general, it doesn't even have to be skin color. It could just be their heritage in general, because there's blacks, there's whites, there's Hispanics, there's Native American, I'm sure there's a whole lot of else that I'm excluding, and then of course you have also Italians, you have, I just had it and it escaped me, Irish, there it is. You have Irish, you have Italians, you have UK, you have all these different races. Every single culture in the history of the world has faced with some kind of oppression from a different culture. Slavery in the United States, yes, was predominantly Africans. But guess what? There were Irish slaves too. There were Italian slaves. And this was one of the things I talked about with my mom. It wasn't just the South. The North had slaves too. The North was the one who also brought the slaves over. The North controlled the slave trading, as well as the South. And yes, slavery was a horrible, horrible thing. One should not pursue dominance over the other. And that is one thing that gets brought up a lot in the news when you hear about all these different sides, was that people are saying that slavery was a bad thing. Yes, it was. We're not debating that. But you have to think about it like this. Every side, every topic has two different sides. Each side has a hero and a villain. And that's where I'm going to be going with this video. When you think about, we'll even think about slavery. We'll start with that. You had some slave owners who took care of them. They gave them housing. Yeah, they worked for them, but they had housing, they had food. You had some that really, really cared for them. And then when the Emancipation Proclamation came up, they're like, okay, you're free. Some chose to stay because they had gotten attached to their workers, to their employers. It was like, I want to stay and work if that's okay. They said, great. You have people like that who were the hero, who treated everyone fairly, who treated people with respect. But then, of course, what gets broadcast especially with media and with Hollywood, you have the villains who treated people horribly. They had horrible living conditions. They were beaten. They were whipped. If they tried to run away, they were killed. They had limbs removed, fingers, ears chopped off, just because their owner was in a pissy mood. But yet, you have this villain. And it could be very rare. Like, it could be 1 out of 100. But this villain, this image, this one bad egg in the bunch, takes over the whole entire group. And that's what we see now. That's all we can see now, is we see that one bad egg. And it's not just on that side. Every single side has that. People are saying now, because it seems to be a targeting on, like at the Pulse nightclub, it was against homosexuals. Because one guy disagrees with homosexuality. And because of the fact that they say he was a Muslim, now everyone's like, all Muslims are dangerous. Well, no. Because Muslim, in their religion, they don't promote violence. These people aren't following their own beliefs. They're being extremists. And they're taking their views, what they think offends them, and they're taking it way too far, and they're putting matters into their own hands. They're being a villain. They're enacting vengeance. Because they disagree with something, and if they see it, they're going to act out on the first thing they see. Same thing with the police. Because we had, I'm not saying all cops are good. There are some bad ones. There are some crooked ones. But not all cops are bad. But because you have a bad egg in the bunch, people then start to see that the whole bunch is bad. And so you have that one extremist who takes it too far, who says, they all have to go now. And he retaliates. And then that's when you have innocent bystanders, innocent people lose their lives. Every single side to all of these debates, they have their martyrs and they have their criminals. Every side. Every side. It's the same thing. It's like, it's the same coin, but there are two different sides. There's a head, there's a tails. One's going to be seen as good, one's going to be seen as bad. And if you flip it over, then the other side is good and the other side is bad. Because they're stuck seeing each other as a villain, as opposing sides. Instead of seeing the one villain. What I'm going to try to say here, and I hope all of this is making sense. I'm just rambling at this point, probably. I'm not saying which sides I agree with and don't agree with. I'm not bringing in my beliefs, because I am not going to oppose what I think of recent events onto you guys. You guys have your own opinions, and I respect that. I'm not asking you guys to share. I do not want to insinuate and start this as a debate or anything, or to have people say, oh, RageCaje is sticking with this side, she's a promoter of this side, but not this side. I'm not saying that. That is why I'm keeping what I think and my beliefs of all of these events that's been happening. I'm keeping that to myself. The only thing I'm going to promote is that all of this mindless violence needs to stop. And some people are going to say it's not mindless. But here's what I'm saying. If you want to act out against some injustice, if you want to protest, that is your right to protest. Protest, yes. But here's what I found in my experience. When you're screaming and shouting, your voice gets lost in a crowd. Because people are shouting too. And you may be shouting one thing, and they're shouting another thing, but you both relatively are speaking about the same thing. But because you're shouting and your voices are carrying over one another, your message gets lost. Either that or you're throwing a tantrum like a child, which people just tend to look the other way and ignore. If you want to have a protest, I suggest, because I mean they were saying that people were standing in the street. That's fine. When you start throwing rocks and things, that's throwing a tantrum. Don't do that. But if you want to stand there or do a sit-in and just sit there, don't make a sound. Don't move. Don't make a sound. Just stand or sit there. Because eventually, you're going to get my favorite thing. Is when people are going to come up to you and try to talk to you. They'll say, hey, hello. What are you doing here? I'm sitting. Why? When they ask why, instead of shouting, whisper. Whisper your message. Because when you whisper, some people may need you to repeat it because they didn't hear you. And so they'll be listening in more closely. They'll have to concentrate and really listen and comprehend your words and your message. Whisper it. So when they hear it, you know they heard it. And that's it. A lot of times, your message can be brought across through peaceful means. There doesn't need to be this violence. There is so much violence and negativity in this world already. We don't need more. But really? Whisper. Shock the hell out of them. Because people are going to be like, you know, they're going to be stunned. Be the hero, not the villain, in your own story. If someone were to make a comic book of your life, of your actions, of your group, whichever you affiliate with, would you or your group be the hero or be the villain? And I'm talking not modern day heroes and villains. Because, I mean, let's face it. Civil War and Batman versus Superman, yeah, okay. You may be classified as the hero, but, I mean, if you destroy a building, yeah, there are other people inside that building, okay, that probably didn't deserve that. Let's go back to classics. When these comic books first came out, I'm talking 1940s, 1960s. Classics. Where Batman would throw a batarang and you rope up, you know, the bank robbers and they fall right at the police's feet. But then as Batman's landing down on the ground, he's holding a little kitten that he saved from a tree, you know? Like, these heroes go after the criminals. But they don't take innocent lives. And when they go after the criminals, they don't go with a sense of vengeance. They don't go for the kill. They go for justice. They apprehend them and bring them to justice. And I'm talking about criminals from both sides. From civilians taking law and matters into their own hands, and our government officials who abuse their power to profit their own views or their own personal gain. Both sides need to be brought to justice. They need to be apprehended, and they need to be served their justice. But don't go about vengeance. Vengeance, revenge, taking innocent lives. And when I say innocent, I mean people who don't personally attack you. If I'm against X, let's say, and someone comes and approaches me and they're portraying X, I am not going to attack them just because they're portraying X. I don't agree with it, but it doesn't mean I'm going to do anything about it. But if they're pushing X onto me, I'm not going to do anything. And if they assault me, them personally, then you can defend yourself. But if this person who assaults me with X goes away, but then here comes Average Joe, also portraying X, but he personally didn't do anything to me, I'm not going to take out my retaliation on Average Joe over there just because he's portraying X, which reminds me of the first person who assaulted me. Average Joe here, although he's portraying the same trait as the other guy, he personally didn't do anything to me. I would not harm him because he is an innocent. He didn't do anything personally to me. All of those traits are traits of villains. In their mind, they're the hero of their own story. They think they're doing the right thing to promote for their agenda. But they're taking innocent lives. They're acting on vengeance and revenge instead of acting defensive, where if someone attacks them, they don't defend. They just turn around and attack the next person they see. That's a villain. Be a hero. A hero defends. If there's one thing I want to promote anyone who watches this video, I want to promote something. And I'm sorry I'm getting long-winded and this is going on. I'm going to wrap it up, I promise. When I grew up in Louisiana, we never had this fear. I'm sure all of this still occurred, just not as frequently as it has been. But when I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do would be to sit out on our porch where we had the swing. And sometimes I would sit there with my mom and my dad. And we'd just be watching people pass by on the street, driving down their cars, whatever. And I would see these people drive down the street, and I'd see my mom and my dad as we're sitting on the swing. And they would wave and smile to the people passing by. To which the people in the car would wave back, or, you know, do the what's up head nod. And I'd ask my mom and dad, did you know them? Because they waved at them. Most of the time the answer was no. Sometimes it was yeah, but most of the time it was no. They were just saying hello, sending a smile, sending a wave to someone, a stranger. Just saying hi to promote a little bit of good. Now, you smile to a stranger on the subway, they look at you and they think like, what the f is wrong with you? But why don't we get back to that? If you're walking down the street and you just happen to make eye contact with someone, someone's looking at you, just give a smile and a wave. Promote a little good. Be a hero. Just pass by, say, have a good day. How you doing? Hi. Nice day. Promote more good. Be the hero, not a villain. I'll see you guys later. My ragers and my rebels, let's tone it down a little bit. Be a hero.